is going on, everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, or you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. Okay, today I'm officially going over what teams I have in the playoffs for the AFC conference for the 2020 NFL season. Let's get right to it. But before I do get started, be sure to subscribe to the Juice Alert if you have not already for whatever reason. And also, I have done deep dives into every single NFL team this offseason. I did record predictions and team previews for all 32 NFL teams, so be sure to check those out. But today, I'm just specifically going over who makes it into the playoffs. I've done all my research. You can hold me to these predictions. Let's get started. In the AFC, the number one seed will be the Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion. I have them going 13-3. That's 13 wins, 3 losses. The Baltimore Ravens last year won 14 games. We know that. But they had an amazing offseason this year. They added Calais Campbell to their defense, who over the last 2 seasons has 17 sacks. They added Derek Wolfe to their pass rush, who had 7 sacks last season. In the 2020 NFL Draft, they addressed their linebacker core. They got Patrick Queen, the best middle linebacker in that draft, in my opinion. They got Malik Harrison, very talented inside linebacker out of Ohio State. Those were 2 of the top 5 middle linebackers in the draft. They also drafted J.K. Dobbins to add to a very stacked running back core already. They got Lamar Jackson another weapon by getting Devin Duvernay out of Texas. The Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion, had the best draft out of all 32 NFL teams, and they just won 14 games last season. The Baltimore Ravens, in my opinion, had the best defense in the entire NFL. They have a very good secondary led by Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, and Jimmy Smith at cornerback. They have 3 legit corners. And yes, I'm aware that Earl Thomas is no longer on the team. That does not bother me. They have a very good coaching staff, and they have a very good young safety that was playing behind Earl Thomas last year that they've been kind of waiting to play. So I think the Baltimore Ravens defense will not take a step back. I do think that Earl Thomas is good, but I do think that he has lost a step, so he's not quite the same player that he once was in his prime. You know, all the Ravens really need to do was address their middle linebacker core, and they did that in the draft. They've got a pass rush. They've got very good middle linebackers. They've got a great secondary. And listen, I think this offense is still going to be one of the 5 best offenses in the entire NFL. Lamar Jackson just won NFL MVP last year, and that was his first season as a starter. And people say, well, teams are going to catch up to Lamar Jackson. When they get film on him, they're going to stop him. Really? Yeah, good luck doing that. Are we just going to ignore the fact that Lamar Jackson, over his final 8 games of last season, when teams continue to have more and more film on him, he threw 25 touchdown passes to 1 interception? Are you kidding me? Are we going to ignore the fact this guy just led the NFL in touchdown passes? Are we going to ignore the fact that this guy, by a long shot, is the best running quarterback in the NFL? Are we going to ignore the fact that he had more rushing yards last year than Joe Mixon, Todd Gurley, and Aaron Jones, along with Dalvin Cook? This guy is a stud. This guy, for his career, has a 19-3 record. And he has one of the best supporting casts in the NFL. You know, he's got Marquise Hollywood Brown at wide receiver. Devin Duvernay out of Texas is a very good, viable target. You've got Mark Andrews at tight end. You've got Nick Boyle at tight end. You got very good running backs. J.K. Dobbins should be a very good pass-catching running back that can also run between the tackles and make things happen in that backfield. He's got a very good offensive line. I'm not concerned about the Baltimore Ravens. They are clearly better than Cincinnati. They're better than Cleveland, and they're better than Pittsburgh. Baltimore, to me, might have the best roster in the entire NFL. And I think they're going to roll through their schedule. They'll win 13 games. Up next, the Ksc Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champion Ksc Chiefs. They're going to come in at 12-4. They'll be the 2 seed. I do think that early on in the season, this team could suffer a Super Bowl hangover. While I do think the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos are improving as football teams, they're still not quite on Kansas City's level. Patrick Mahomes' floor, in my opinion, is about 10 wins. That's his floor. This guy's the best player in all football. If he stays healthy, he's going to put up godly numbers. He's got Travis Kelce to throw to. He's got Tyreek Hill, the fastest player in all football. He's got Mecole Hardman, who's one of the fastest players in all football at his disposal at wide receiver. You got Sammy Watkins. Now you add Clyde Edwards-Helaire to that running back core. That running back core should be very good once again. Very good offensive line led by Mitchell Schwartz. The Chiefs returned their entire coaching staff. They returned virtually the same exact team that won them a Super Bowl from the previous season, opposite of about 3 starters. Chris Jones is a monster at defensive tackle. Frank Clark's a very good player. I do worry about their secondary. I do worry about their linebacker core. This team is very good. I believe they're going to win 12 games this year. Up next, got to roll with the New England Patriots to go 11-5. I believe they're going to win their division at 11-5 this year. 11 wins, 5 losses. This is a 12-win football team from a year ago. And yes, they did lose some key players on defense. Yes, one of their starting offensive tackles has opted out for the season. I don't care, okay? Last year, the New England Patriots won 12 games with Tom Brady, who's still a very good quarterback, but Tom Brady is declining and he can't move anymore. Cam Newton is going to provide a new dynamic to this Bill Belichick offense that honestly Bill has never really had. Cam Newton has one of the 5 strongest arms in the entire NFL. He's a top 10 quarterback when healthy. I think Cam Newton is motivated. I think that Bill Belichick is going to take Cam Newton's talents and run with them. They got 3 really good running backs. The secondary is still intact, led by Stephon Gilmore. Even in Bill Belichick's worst days coaching the Patriots defense, the Patriots usually are going to be top 10 in scoring. So I don't care that they lost Jamie Collins. I don't care that they lost Kyle Van Noy. Sure, those are good players, but Bill Belichick is one of the best defensive minds, maybe the best defensive mind in the entire NFL. He'll be able to retool that defense. I expect Julian Edelman to have a bounce-back season. I expect N'Keal Harry to be better in his sophomore season, to be better in his second year in the offense. I expect Jacoby Myers to play better. The Patriots drafted 2 tight ends. I do think the Patriots have somewhat of a ceiling just because this team is not super explosive on offense, and they did lose some horses on defense. They're not quite as good as Baltimore and Kansas City, but this is still a very good team that's a Super Bowl contender in my opinion. Up next is the Houston Texans. I have them winning the AFC South this year with a 10-6 record. That's 10 wins, 6 losses. I don't understand why people can't wrap their arms around Houston. I understand that Bill O'Brien is not the ideal head coach. But listen, Bill O'Brien does not have trouble getting into the playoffs. Bill O'Brien's struggles are winning playoff games, but he can usually get you to the playoffs. 4 of the past 6 seasons, he's made the playoffs, okay? He's not an awful head coach. I do think that Houston has reached their ceiling with Bill O'Brien, but this is still an above-average team that can win 10 games, in my opinion. Deshaun Watson is an elite quarterback. Can we please stop the Deshaun Watson disrespect? Can we not ignore the fact that this guy, as a rookie, was on pace to throw for 43 touchdown passes before getting injured? Are we just going to ignore the fact that this guy went 11-5 a couple years ago behind the worst offensive line in all of football and still threw for 4,000 yards and had a pass rating over 100? Are we just going to ignore what Deshaun Watson did in the playoffs last year by beating that Buffalo Bills defense without Will Fuller, with his offensive line not really blocking for him? Are we just going to ignore the fact that Deshaun Watson had a 24-point lead on Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs last year? Deshaun Watson is the real deal, man. And while they did lose DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Cooks is not an awful player. Brandon Cooks, along with Will Fuller, along with Randall Cobb, along with Ksc Chiefs, along with those solid tight ends, are definitely well above average weapons for Deshaun Watson to work with. He's got 2 good pass-catching running backs. The defense does enough to get by, in my opinion. I think they have enough impactful players to get by this season. J.J. Watt is a monster. Whitney Merciless had a very good season last year. Ross Blacklock, a defensive tackle, is very talented. You got Conley, you got Roby, you got Hargraves in that secondary. Those are 3 defensive backs that were kind of overdrafted, but they're still very good players. Justin Reed is a star at safety, in my opinion. He's one of the best young safeties in the entire NFL that really no one talks about. And Houston last year had a top 10 offensive line at times. This offensive line was looking like a top 10 unit when they were fully healthy. Laramie Tunsil's one of the best left tackles in all of football. Max Sharping, Tyus Howard. These are real players. I will be darned if I picked the Indianapolis Colts, led by Mr. 20 interception Phillip Rivers, to win this division. I will be darned if I pick one-hit wonder Ryan Tannehill to win this division over Deshaun Watson. And I will be darned if I pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to win over 4 games. They're going to be a 2-win football team this year. So the Houston Texans, they're the class of that division. I think that they have a ceiling, but they're still a playoff team. Up next, the Buffalo Bills, 10-6 football team in my opinion. I'm not completely sold on Josh Allen, but I will say Josh Allen was kind of rocky as a rookie. He kind of struggled at times as a rookie. He definitely had a bounce-back sophomore season, and this could be the year we see Josh Allen pop. Josh Allen has everything he needs to succeed. He's got Stephon Diggs at wide receiver, along with John Brown, along with Cole Beasley. Dawson Knox is a very good young tight end. You got Zach Moss at running back. You got Devin Singletary at running back. The offensive line is a very underrated unit. I honestly think that Buffalo has the best defense in the NFL outside of Baltimore and maybe San Francisco. This roster is loaded. So it is all on Josh Allen now. Josh Allen cannot succeed with this supporting cast. I have no hope for him, but I do think that Josh Allen will respond this year and have a very solid season. I think that he's going to take a step this year. And I think the Buffalo Bills, they're a very well-run team that has a very good defense. They're going to be able to run the football. I still think that they have a little bit of a ceiling on offense. Not quite sure if I want Josh Allen leading my team in the playoffs, but still a very good team that will win 10 games. Okay, up next, the Denver Broncos. I have them as a wild card team. I had them winning 10 games in my preview and prediction video, but I dropped them to 9 wins. The reason why is because now Juwan James is out for the season. They have 2 major holes at offensive tackle. That's a concern. But I still think this team is very talented, and I still think this team can win 9 games. This is a team last year in Denver that won 7 games, and Joe Flacco and Brandon Allen played in 11 of their 16 games. Those guys were not very good last year. I believe in Drew Lock as a quarterback. He has a very strong arm. Last year, he went 4-1 as a starter, threw 7 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions during those 5 games. He's got Cortland Sutton. He's got Jerry Jeudy. He's got KJ Hamler. Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler were 2 of the best wide receivers in the 2020 NFL Draft. Noah Fant is a star in the making at tight end. You've got Albert O. You've got Melvin Gordon. You've got Phil Lindsay at running back. Graham Glasgow is a very good offensive lineman. Pat Shurmur is a very good offensive play caller. Not the best head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur is a real G. This defense has Durant. This defense has Von Miller. This defense has Bradley Chubb on that defensive line. Those are very good players. You got A.J. Boye in the secondary, a very underrated defensive back, along with Justin Simmons. The defense does have some holes in some areas, but it's still a well above average unit. Vic Fangio will have that defense playing well. I expect Drew Lock in this offense to put up a bunch of points. And I expect Bradley Chubb and Von Miller to get after the quarterback. Last but not least, it's not the Tennessee Titans. It's not the Indianapolis Colts. And for darn sure, it ain't them overrated Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to make the playoffs. And for a couple reasons. I have Cleveland going 9-7 this year. I believe in Baker Mayfield. I loved Baker Mayfield when he was at Oklahoma, and we saw Baker Mayfield in his rookie season look like that he might potentially become a top 10 NFL quarterback one day. That guy was absolutely balling. Now this past year, Baker Mayfield got humbled. He took a step back. But I think that Baker Mayfield is motivated, and he's going to play very well in a make-or-break season because honestly, Baker Mayfield, he's got no more excuses this year. He's got an improved offensive line. He has one of the best wide receiver corps in the entire NFL. He's got very good tight ends. There's no more excuses for Baker Mayfield. When Baker Mayfield's back was against the wall at Texas Tech, he responded. When his back was against the wall at Oklahoma as a walk-on, he had to walk on to both schools. He responded. In a make-or-break season, I believe Baker Mayfield plays well. Nick Chubb is a beast. OBJ is a beast. This offense is going to score some points. The defense has enough players to make plays, led by Myles Garrett, who might be the best overall edge rusher in the entire NFL, maybe outside Khalil Mack. Okay, he's very, very good. Richardson at defensive tackle is a good player. You've got Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams in the secondary. Mack Wilson at linebacker is a very underrated player. Cleveland is just so talented, man. And now Cleveland is flying under the radar. I think that I was a year early on Cleveland last year, but I think that I'm right on time this year. I think that Kevin Stefanski is a big-time upgrade over Freddie Kitchens at head coach. I think Kevin Stefanski runs an offense that suits Baker Mayfield perfectly. And I believe Cleveland will make it into the playoffs at 9-7. So there you have it right there. My 7 playoff teams in the AFC. Number 1, Baltimore Ravens at 13-3. Number 2, Ksc Chiefs at 12-4. Number 3, New England Patriots at 11-5. Number 4, Houston Texans at 10-6. Number 5, Buffalo Bills at 10-6. Number 6, Denver Broncos at 9-7. And number 7, Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns at 9-7 as well. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God-blessed day, and I'm out.